On the 24th November 2014, Paul Magu requested Margaret Njoki, his house manager, to have the kids ready. He would like to take them for shopping. She had been feeling quite unsettled, knowing that Lydia, her boss lady, had not yet returned since yesterday morning. But since Paul did not look bothered, she pushed off the nagging thoughts, got the kids ready for their dad to be taken for shopping as he had requested. At around 10 a.m., he left with his kids in his car. The kids joyfully waved goodbyes at their house manager, not knowing that this was the last time she would see them alive. This is the story of Paul Magu and the animosity he took his family through. In a shocking series of events that left Kenya and the world in disbelief, Paul Magu, a successful Kenyan lawyer, committed a horrifying act that took the lives of his wife and 3 young children. This tragedy unfolded in November 2014 and remains one of the most disturbing criminal cases in Kenya's recent history. Magu's actions, driven by what was believed to be his involvement in occult and psychological distress, left behind a trail of grief, confusion, and countless questions. A little background about Paul Magu. Paul Magu was born in Kiambu County in the year 1979. His parents were Samuel Mohi and Keziah Wamboi. He grew up alongside his 4 siblings. Paul had been discovered to have a passion in education. He took that after his mother, who was a primary school teacher. His father was a businessman and a farmer. He studied in a number of schools for his primary education just around his village area. He did well for his Kenya Certificate of Primary Education when he managed to join Alliance Boys High School, which is one of the best schools in Kenya up to date. After high school, he joined University of Nairobi and graduated with a bachelor's in law. After that, he joined the Kenya School of Law and gained a postgraduate diploma in law, a gateway to practicing law in the Republic of Kenya. Through his expertise, he managed to rise through ranks in a law firm he worked with. This gave him tremendous success over the years. In the year 2005, he married his wife Lydia Wangoi. They were 26 and 21 years respectively. Lydia subsequently continued to support him through their career, and they were finally blessed with 3 kids, a girl and 2 boys. The family appeared to be thriving, living a comfortable life with no apparent signs of discord or trouble. But November 23rd, year 2014, Lydia went missing mysteriously. The morning of this Sunday seemed usual for the Magus, but after the hours unfolded, Paul requested Njoki, the house manager, to go buy some shopping. Porridge flour, sodas and groceries included. It had been the family's trend for Lydia to buy groceries for the family herself, so Njoki requested Paul if she could consult with Lydia on the groceries she would want her to buy. Surprisingly, Paul told her that Lydia had already left quite early after breakfast. Still engaged in her usual chores, Njoki overheard the kids ask their father about their mother's whereabouts. Paul told the children that the mother had already left early morning with a pastor friend for a prayer session. She was identified as Pastor Ann. To Njoki's greater worry was that Lydia had not returned even late at night. The next day came and Lydia has not yet returned. Njoki started to get more worried and troubled. It never felt like Lydia to be away from home and her family for that long. Now, this is the morning Paul requested the house help to have the kids prepared for a shopping trip. In the early afternoon, Paul returns home without the kids. He changed his clothes and left immediately. He said nothing to the house manager. Paul drove straight to his parents' home. The house help can now tell that something off was growing. She decides to check in Paul and Lydia's room. The bed is neatly made, but upon taking a closer look, Njoki noted some things that looked more like teeth or fractured bones. The house manager got completely uneasy, and so she decided to make several phone calls around, asking whether anyone had seen Lydia. To her surprise, no one had seen her anywhere. To make matters worse, Lydia's phone is not going through. Upon getting to his parents' home, Paul finds his father out in the farm. His mom is away to the coast to visit Paul's sister. Samuel noted instantly that his son looked quite off. His father asked him if he was doing okay, but he brushed him off, saying that he was only hungry. They hung out in the farm for a while, and Paul left later, claiming that he was going for a walk. By the time he returned to his father, he looked tired and his clothes and shoes all covered with mud. His father questioned him about it, where he told him that he had been robbed and thrown into the mud. All this while, his father had no slightest idea that Paul's family is missing. The father made dinner, but Paul declined to eat, and upon going to bed, Samuel could hear his son speak to himself loudly. Acting out of trouble, Samuel immediately checked with his son early the next morning of November 25th. He was caught by shock after finding his son dressed in his mother's clothes, a skirt and a blouse. The father ordered Paul to immediately remove his mother's clothes. Paul obeyed, but after dressing up in his own clothes, he left in his car, leaving the old man in more shock. The father became quite restless now, and he tried to reach out his daughter-in-law Lydia. Maybe he would be enlightened a bit about what was wrong with Paul. More worry caught him since Lydia's phone did not go through. What Samuel did not know is that at that moment he was trying to get a hold of Lydia, her body was discovered inside a thicket in a remote area near Klimambogo Thika. Her body disfigured by some pursue burn on some of her body parts. Samuel waited in distress, hoping Paul would return later, but darkness struck and he had not returned. The father had to seek his other son, Andrew Kamau. To his shock, he learned that Andrew had just received the shocking news about Lydia's death. Out of the tragic developments, the family members started looking for Paul and the kids. They reported to the police and they were declared missing. The next day, 26 November 2014, Paul was found dead after being hit by a truck on the Thika-Garissa highway. While the exact circumstances of his death remain unclear, it was widely believed to be a suicide. His car was still parked by the roadside with the engine still running. December 1st, 2014, more tragic news would be received. 5-year-old Tiffany Muthoni Magu's body was found in a thicket near Tatu City. She too had been drenched in acid and also a severe cut at the back of her head.
Seen a young girl's body in a coffee plantation and told me that we need to go and see if she's the one. So they told us they're taking the body to this mortuary. They got there and waited for the body. And when they came, because now we hadn't seen how the kids were dressed, when we saw the body, I called the house girl and she confirmed that was the body.
The two other kids' fate remained unknown. Authorities were now engaged in the search of the two little souls. Detection dogs were involved, as well as friends and relatives joined the search. The burial for the 3 deceased members remained suspended until the 2 kids were found, dead or alive. Sadly, on the 3rd of December 2014, little Allen and Ryan Magu were found dead, not far from where their sister Tiffany had been discovered. The mystery struck horror among the Kenyan people and mostly family and friends after the news hit the headlines. How could an entire family perish in such a ferocious and mysterious way? Everyone was in shock. Who had killed them, and what could be the reason? But no matter how difficult it sounded, Paul Magu became the first suspect to the killings. They believed that after he swept out his family, he went ahead and committed suicide finally. But upon further investigation, The case took quite a different twist. While the police were searching through Magu's house, they would discover some sort of shrine. There were odd items around the shrine, including cassette tapes, CDs, odd books, and oil upon other appliances. They pointed to involvement in cult activities and cultism. Upon questioning the Magu's house manager, she disclosed that the room was frequently used by the family pastor, namely Anne Wanyoro. Njoki also confirmed that Anne was the last person to spend time with the Magus and that she had stayed with the family members conducting rituals and prayers in courts, and many people felt like it was more of a cult than a normal Christian church. After the ritual with Anne, Lydia was the first member of the Magu family to go missing. Friends and neighbors believed that the relationship between Paul and Anne appeared strange, and most of them had even alleged that they had an affair. People also believed that Anne had engaged Paul in a cult whose activities led to the tragic death of the family members. A family member had also confirmed that since Paul met Anne, he had become disrespectful to everyone, even to his own wife.
He's a naughty boy. Hata mama yake alikuwa akiongea kama hana heshima. Mtu yule hata mimi Magu alinikosea heshima walipochukuana na huyo.
Paul would only listen to Anne Wanyoro. Anne was arrested immediately after these confessions. Born in central Kenya back in 1975, Anne had a passion for clergy and the gospel. She had a degree in theology, and after opening her own church, her congregation grew in size and continued to preach a word of hope and redemption. She met with Paul Magu back in 2007 through his mother, Keziah, who were friends at that time. Paul's mother had noted red flags about Anne Wanyoro, and so she finally pulled away from her congregation. But for her son, he continued to seek the pastor. Their relationship got so deep. Paul's behavior started to fall apart, making poor decisions in his life. Many people that were close to him had noted. Paul would even go on and become withdrawn from his own mother. He made his family move from faith evangelistic ministry, where he previously congregated, and joined Showers of Praise ministry, where Anne Wanyoro was the head clergy. Anne was affiliated with Nigeria's controversial pastor TB Joshua. Between 2009 and 2014, Paul and Anne Wanyoro had traveled countless times to Nigeria to attend TB Joshua's conferences. They always brought back some anointed oil from Nigeria, which they used during prayers. Paul's wife had also gotten entangled in the mess. Ultimately, Paul finally decided to abandon his law profession so as to concentrate on church matters. He started directing his finances to Anne's church account, most of the time leaving the family with nothing to live on. Paul was so intoxicated with the doctrine to an extent where he had started paying for Anne Wanyoro's kids' school fees and even bought her a car. Anne would frequently visit the Magu family, where they would pray together and perform cultic activities using the appliances at the shrine, including the oil from TB Joshua, Nigeria. Anne had performed a 3-day ritual prior to the fateful incidents of the Magus. Upon further digging, police noted that Anne had been in constant communication with Paul before and during the murder. This made her a suspect. It was discovered that Magu had transferred the ownership of his property to Anne on a will that he'd written and given it to his lawyer. The evidence linked Pastor Anne to the murder and led to her arrest and trial. She faced the charges of being Paul's accomplice in the murder of Lydia and the 3 children. She denied the charges. In January 2016, she was released on a $2 million bond, awaiting trial. The trial commenced on March 2017, and the witnesses testified against the pastor. Margaret Njoki was the first to testify, and she confirmed the bloodstain she had witnessed in Lydia and Paul's bedroom. Additionally, she said that She had heard Paul tell the kids that Lydia had gone out with Anne on that Sunday of her disappearance. Keziah, Paul's mom, also testified, saying that she was sure that her son and the pastor were engaged in a romantic relationship. She added that the tragedy that had befallen the Magu's family was as a result of religious brainwash. She had learned of the brainwash when Paul left his law profession to concentrate on church. Keziah said that she had tried effortlessly to convince Paul to ditch Anne's church. Paul's father also engaged in the testimonies and shared the last moment he shared with Paul and how distressed and out of place Paul looked. Prosecutors brought forth the collected evidence before the judge, including the appliances found at the shrine, the cursed books, CDs, tapes, and anointing oil. Among the books, they would find the book Murder Most Foul, which involves ritualistic killings and body disposal. It was the last book Paul Magu ever read. At the Magu's home around the parking bay, a burned-out area was also discovered by the police. It had taken the shape of a human body, showing that Paul had tried to burn Lydia from that spot, but he failed. Blood stains were also examined in the bedroom, and also teeth belonging to Lydia. After a DNA was conducted, it was proved to be Lydia's DNA. If you remember, at the beginning of the story, Paul had sent his house manager to do some shopping. At that moment, that is when he attacked his wife and tried to burn her body at the parking area. He, however, failed after noting the house manager's return. He carried Lydia's body back to the bedroom and later, he put her in a sack and went to dispose of the body. He had also killed his children after driving out with them, and after that, he drove to his parents' home and later committed suicide the next day. During Anne's trial, she acted quite uncooperative. She showed odd gestures in the courtroom. Upon being asked questions by the judge, she could burst into prayers, quoting Bible verses and expressing the extent of her religion fanaticism. Up to now, in the year 2024, 10 years since the Magus were killed, the case still remains unresolved. It's still an open case and the actual killer has never been punished. And I believe that you all agree with me that justice delayed is justice denied. May the Magus rest in eternal peace.